In this article, we discuss accounting for JobKeeper payments, and we look at accounting by not-for-profit entities and for-profit entities. Now, the very first consideration is whether an employer is acting as a principal or an agent. And in our view, the employer is acting as a principal because the employer is taking the risk. The employer has to pay payments to employees, 1,500 a fortnight, and then make sure that they meet all the eligibility criteria, both the employees meet it, the employers meet it, and try and get the money back from government. Therefore, the risk is sitting with the employer, and we believe the employer is the principal. That is very important because if the employer is the principal, they would have to account for the income and the expense separately. If we have a for-profit entity, they would apply AASB 120 for the grant, and not-for-profit entities will apply AASB 1058. If a for-profit entity apply AASB 120, and in particular, if they look at paragraph 7, they have to make sure that there's reasonable assurance that they would be eligible for this payment, and also that they'll meet all the conditions and receive the money. Therefore, as soon as a for-profit entity make the payment, they would say credit cash, debit the wage expense, and at that stage, if they believe they're reasonably assured to get the money from government, also book a receivable, so debit receivable, credit government grant. The question is then whether for-profit entities could do gross presentation or should be doing net presentation in profit or loss. It depends on whether for-profit entities already have an accounting policy for government grants or not. If you've got an accounting policy, you have to follow that. If you don't have an accounting policy, you can select and develop an accounting policy as either being gross presentation or net presentation. For not-for-profit entities, we apply AASB 1058. Therefore, again, as a not-for-profit, make the payments, credit cash, debit wage expense, and at that stage, debit receivable, credit other income. AASB 1058 do not allow for offsetting or net presentation, and therefore not-for-profits will have to disclose other income and wage expense quite separately in profit or loss. We will also consider accounting for all the other government stimulus and include that in future newsletters. Similar to my overview video, I thought I should pick an interesting background. Now, this painting is a painting by an Australian artist, Tracy Keller, and when I walked around in Noosa a few years ago, I popped into her studio and I saw this owl and I fell in love with this owl. I don't know much about art, but it's all about how it makes me feel. I love the owl, I love the color. So again, one of my favorite paintings.